Welcome to the first episode of A Conversation Worth Having. Today we'll be putting some respect on Taylor Swift's name.
The site was supposed to be opened up for 1.5 million verified Taylor Swift fans. We had 14 million people hit the site, including bots, another story, which are not supposed to be there. And despite all the challenges and the breakdowns, we did sell over 2 million tickets that day. We could have filled 900 stadiums.
So I recently read an article which probably came out a long time ago, which said after pre-sale for the Popstars Eras tour ended in chaos, the ticket broker cancelled its plans to sell tickets to the general public on Friday. Ticketmaster has cancelled its planned public sale of tickets to Taylor Swift's latest tour after a whirlwind few days that demonstrated not only Swift's extraordinary fan following but the limitations of music's dominant ticketing system. Midnight, Swift's 10th studio LP, was released last month, shocking the industry by selling the equivalent of 1.5 million copies in the United States, the largest total of any album in 7 years. In Billboard's first, songs from Midnight occupied the entire top 10 on the singles chart. Like, when you hear these things, I don't know what they mean to you, but 1.5 million records is almost unheard of, in terms of sales, because a lot of times with digital streaming, I think a stream only constitutes almost like a percentage of a sale. So to be able to hit this number that she's hitting, it means that almost 30-40 million people listen to her album within the first week. And when you garner such respect and such audiences, it makes, I think that at a certain point, we have to stop hating and start appreciating. Speaking on CNBC program Squawk on the Street earlier on Thursday, Greg Maffei, the chairman of Live Nation Entertainment, Ticketmaster's parent company, cited Swift's extreme popularity as part of the issue. It's a function of Taylor Swift, Maffei said. The site was supposed to open up for 1.5 million verified Taylor Swift fans, and then they had 14 million people hit the site, including bots which are not supposed to be there. The company say that it is working to show up their tech for the new bar that has been set by the demand for her tour. Once they get through that, they are then able to take any steps. Updates will be shared accordingly. Ticketmaster is quite big. Like, I use Ticketmaster to get my tickets because I don't think you really have a lot of options. So it's quite a big platform. And, with the data that's out there, I'm pretty sure, like, if you say we just want to prepare for 1.5 million Taylor Swift fans in a country with 300 million people, you are essentially, how do I say it? Lying to yourself, because there's no way whereby we've come out of a pandemic. We really didn't have a lot of tours to go to this year, and Taylor Swift hasn't performed in like the past 3 years ever since she did her last studio tour, her last album tour. So you knew that there was going to be great demand, and I think, like, if you're going to be like, oh yeah, we were anticipating 1.4 million fans, then you have an issue. Like, rightfully so, you got 14 million hits. And anyway, this is not about Ticketmaster. This is about Taylor Swift. Like, I don't think 1.4 million versus 14 million. That's like 100% jump. Like, that's even like, I don't even know what percentage that is. That's 10x of the people that were anticipated and the people that showed up, including bots. So that means even in the 1.4 million, they were expecting bots. I think when you look at those numbers, for me, they make me salute Miss Swift. I'm not going to make excuses for anyone because we asked them multiple times if they could handle this kind of demand, and we were sure they could. The singer wrote in an Instagram post on Friday, "It's truly amazing that 2.4 million people got tickets, but it really pisses me off that a lot of them feel like they went through several bear attacks to get them." It's quite phenomenal when things are put down to numbers, when you're just like, oh, it's 2.4 million people who got tickets to the show. That just means 2.4 million tickets were sold. So you don't really know how many tickets one individual got, but still, when you think of that number, it's 2.4 million. Let's say an average ticket is going for $60. How much money was made? From a business perspective, like, those numbers are unheard of. Like, a lot of people can barely fill in a 5,000 seater. But if someone is selling 2.4 million tickets before the actual sale of the tickets begins, this is just the pre-sale to see what the level of demand is going to be. And then it feels like they've already sold out before the thing even begins. Swift added that she will try to figure out how the situation can improve moving forward. The first 5 studio albums plus one Christmas EP released by Taylor Swift total an impressive 42 million units sold. More than anything, each of her studio outputs up to 1989 topped the 6 million mark, an unreal achievement considering how proportionally poor she has been in selling in Europe. I think that a lot of Americans will be poor selling in Europe because in Europe they do have their own music scene. But I feel like, listen, you don't really need European souls when you have 300 million people in your nation. With over 70% of her sales coming from the US, these figures can be regarded both ways, extraordinary or not so good, whether you're looking to North America results or abroad sales. Swift signed a record deal with Big Machine Records in 2005 and released her eponymous debut album the following year with 157 weeks on the Billboard 200 by December 2009. The album was the longest charting album of the 2000s decade. Swift's second studio album, Fearless, 2008, dropped the Billboard 200 for 11 weeks and was the only album from the 2000s decade to spend 1 year in the top 10. The album was certified diamond by the RIAA. It also topped charts in Australia and Canada and has sold 12 million copies worldwide. Her third studio album, the self-written Speak Now, spent 6 weeks atop the Billboard 200 and top charts in Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. It marks Swift's first of 4 albums to debut atop the Billboard 200 with over 1 million sales. It amassed 1,047,000 units first week, making it the first to do so in over 2 years. Her fourth studio album, Red, 2012, was the first #1 album in the UK. It topped charts in Australia, Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, and spent 7 weeks in #1 on Billboard 200. Swift scored her 4th year's #1 album with 1989 in 2014, which topped the Billboard 200 for 11 weeks and was certified 9 times platinum by the RIAA, topping the charts in other countries including Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. 1989 has sold 10 million copies worldwide. I don't think you guys I think you heard what I just read out loud to you. Like, the numbers that this lady makes, they're ridiculous. Her 6th studio album, Reputation, 2017, made Swift the first music artist to have 4 consecutive albums, each sell over 1 million copies within his debut week. It spent 4 weeks atop the Billboard 200. Exiting Big Machine, Swift signed with Universal Music Group label Records in 2018. His 7th studio album, Lover, 2019, was the year's global best-selling album by a solo artist. Swift released 2 studio albums in 2020, her 8th, Folklore, and spent 8 weeks atop of the Billboard 200. Her 9th, Evermore, spent 4, with Folklore being 2020's best-selling album in the United States. Swift became the first artist to have the best-selling album of a calendar year 5 times. Fearless, 2009, 1989, 2014, Reputation, 2017, Lover, 2019, Folklore, 2020. Swift released Fearless, Taylor's version in 2021, a re-recording of her original Fearless 2008, and Red, Taylor's version 2020, a re-recording of Red 2012, after a dispute with Big Machine over the rights to the masters of her first 6 albums. Fearless became the first re-recording album to top the Billboard 200. It made Swift the first female artist to amass 3 #1 albums in less than a year. Red, Taylor's version, broke the record for largest venue sales week on the Billboard chart, a record later broken by Swift's studio album Midnight, which became Spotify's most streamed album in one day with 185 million plays. 185 million plays, the fastest and best-selling album of 2022. In the US, debuted atop the Billboard 200 with Swift's biggest opening week yet, 1.57 million units. Man, it marked the 5th album to sell over 1 million copies in a week. Whew, Lord. Taylor Swift's numbers. She's worth 825 million net worth, not old enough to buy a beer at the decades outset. Swift became a stadium-packing superstar and a music highest paid woman in the 2010s. When you hear these things, like Congress is going to hold antitrust hearing on Ticketmaster amid Taylor Swift's tour mess. 2.4 million, that's how many fans purchased tickets last week for Taylor Swift, the Eras tour, which kicks off in 2023. Swift said last week those tickets were purchased during pre-sale events held by Ticketmaster. When the company is the subset of Live Nation, Entertainment said it was cancelling the public sale. It said it was going to do so because of extraordinarily high demands on the ticketing systems and insufficient remaining ticket inventory to meet the demand, said in an interview. All right. So when you go through the numbers that we just went through that Taylor Swift has been able to create, there are very few artists who can compete with that. From the top of my mind, I think it's only Drake and probably some other type of artists that I do not listen to but have huge popularity. For example, maybe in rock, but I don't really know. The only person I can think of at the top of my head would be Drake. Another person who I might think might compete as such is Beyonce, but she doesn't really release music to the level that Taylor does. Like Taylor has 10 studio albums and she released 2 in the pandemic. She's essentially released almost like 5 albums between the pandemic and right now when you think about it. So like the level of work that she puts in is ridiculous and the result that she gets are also incredible. When I'm looking at her work, for me, I feel one thing that Taylor Swift has going for her that most celebrities don't is her ability to relate to her fans. It almost feels as if, as I'm recording this, Taylor Swift can literally just walk through my door and be like, "Oh, you look cute," and whatever, and walk away. And that just makes you feel good. And this is something that we've watched a lot on the internet. We've seen her have these interactions with her fans, and she feels like a friend. She feels like a sister to a lot of people. And there's that connection, despite what the media tries to do. The thing with the media is you can see what it's trying to do and what the person is doing, and it just makes you question the media a lot of times. But the reason I say we should put respect on her name is I once did like a reaction to a song, If I Was a Man. A lot of people would respect me different because she'll be braggadocious, she'll be doing all this, like the moves that she makes, the result that she makes. A lot of times we'll be like, wow, this man is amazing, and we'll be like, his moves are crazy. But when we look at T Swift, it's like we look at her, but we feel like there's somebody behind her, there's somebody behind the machine. And whether it's there or not, I feel like her results deserve the respect and that someone performing at the best of their abilities should garner. And for me, that's why I made this video, is just to say, as we move into 2023, man, we should give flowers where they're due. And Taylor Swift, what she's been able to do, deserves those flowers. Let me know in the comment section what you think of Taylor Swift's music, what you think of her career to this day. Which other artist, actor, movie director, anybody should we look into for a conversation worth having? I'll see you guys in the next one.
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me.